Why do some people live to be 100 and others not? It's not just a matter of picking better parents. Studies following identical twins suggest only about 25% of the difference in lifespan between people is due to genetics. What can we do over the majority of which we may have some control? Well, the media loves stories of hard-living centenarians who attribute their longevity to some combination of lard, vodka, and favorite brand of cigarette. But how do the oldest and healthiest really eat and live? Well, that's what we have the blue zones for, these areas of exceptional longevity around the world, where they have up to 10 times the rate of those reaching triple digits. What lessons can we learn? Well, the Blue Zones organization distilled findings from more than 150 dietary surveys from the world's longest living people to create a set of 10 food guidelines. The foundation of the Blue Zones food guidelines is to make your diet at least 95% plant-based, avoiding highly processed foods, and emphasizing beans as the healthiest source of protein, water as the best beverage, and nuts as the healthiest snack. That's the foundation. The final 5 guidelines are to go easy on fish, eliminate eggs, slash sugar, reduce dairy, and retreat from meat. There are a number of shared Blue Zone lifestyle characteristics, avoiding smoking, daily exercise, but plant-based nutrition is considered to be the principal component, and no surprise, since the number one risk factor for death in these United States is the American diet. Unsafe sex is bad. Sedentary lifestyle, bad. Alcohol and drugs, particularly tobacco, bad. But cigarettes only kill about 500,000 Americans every year, whereas our diet kills many more. We are what we eat, which is good news because it means we have the power. Changing from a typical diet to a healthier diet starting at age 20, be expected to increase the lifespan of women by about 11 years, men by 13 years. The largest life expectancy gains be expected by eating more legumes, more beans, split peas, chickpeas, or lentils. We are, after all, in Beantown. So if there was one thing we could eat, legumes for longevity, hummus for health. Now, for the few of us who aren't 20 anymore, not to worry. Starting to eat healthier at age 60 could still mean adding 8 or 9 years to your life. Starting to eat healthier even in one's 80s could add years, and it doesn't take much. The NIH AARP study is the largest forward-looking study on diet and health in human history, based on its 6 million person years of observation, replacing just 3% of daily caloric intake from animal protein with plant protein was associated with a 10% decreased risk of overall mortality. Just swapping 3%. Of all the animal protein sources, eggs were found to be the worst. Swapping in 3% of plant protein for egg protein was associated with twice the benefit, more than 20% lower mortality, having scrambled tofu instead. But does eating healthier actually slow down aging? Well, observational studies show that adopting a plant-based diet, especially when rich in healthful plant foods, is associated with a substantially slower pace of aging, but you need interventional trials to show cause and effect. And here we go. Hundreds of women randomized to a diet centered around whole plant foods or to exercise or to neither. And though sadly the physical activity alone failed to slow the aging process, those in the plant-based dietary intervention group experienced a significant slowing of biological aging. This study just came out. Identical twins randomized to a strictly plant-based diet, experiencing significant reductions in multiple epigenetic aging clocks within just 8 weeks of switching to plant-based nutrition, aligning with the anti-aging effects of plant-based diets. Eating, in terms of lifespan, eating a burger may cut one's life as short as smoking 2 cigarettes. So if it wouldn't even occur to us to light up before and after lunch, maybe we should choose the bean burrito instead if we want to live the longest life. Of course, not just about adding years to your life, but life to our years. An unhealthy aging index was devised to measure functional impairments, vitality, mental health, not just physical health, and replacing even just 1% of daily caloric intake from animal protein with plant protein was associated with substantially lower accumulation of deficits, and replacing 5% may reduce our risk of dying from the greatest deficit of all, dementia. That may help explain why those who don't eat any meat at all may be up to 3 times less likely to become demented later in life. There's this common misconception that you have no control over whether or not we develop dementia. But the good news is that although Alzheimer's may be incurable, at least it is preventable. There's an emerging consensus that what's good for our hearts is also good for our heads, because clogging the arteries inside our brain with atherosclerotic plaque is thought to play a role in the development of Alzheimer's dementia. This is what our cerebral arteries should look like. Open, clean, allowing blood to flow throughout our brain. This is what atherosclerosis in our head looks like. Clogged with cholesterol, closing off our arteries, clamping down on blood flow. What kind of brain arteries do you want in your head? Too much cholesterol in our blood is unanimously recognized to be a risk factor for Alzheimer's dementia. Those with a total cholesterol of 225 or more, which is not that uncommon, have nearly 25 times the odds of ending up with amyloid plaques in their brains 10 to 15 years later. After all, what is ApoE? The Alzheimer's gene codes for the primary cholesterol carrier inside the brain. That may explain the so-called Nigerian paradox, where they have among the highest rates of the Alzheimer's gene, but some of the lowest rates of Alzheimer's disease. How is that possible? Genes load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. Paradox may be explained by their low cholesterol levels, probably due to their diets low in animal fat. Human beings may have evolved to maintain an LDL cholesterol of around 25, but those in the Western world have an average cholesterol about LDL about 120. No wonder heart disease is the #1 cause of death in high-income countries, and guess what? Killer #2, dementia. That helps explain why the Alzheimer's gene is the single most important gene when it comes to longevity too, which is good news, because even if we've been dealt some bad genetic cards, we still may be able to reshuffle the deck with diet. So, in terms of dietary guidelines for the prevention of Alzheimer's, we should center our diets around vegetables, legumes, fruits, and whole grains. In other words, the dietary pillar of lifestyle medicine, whole food, plant-based nutrition. But prevention isn't sexy. When prevention works, nothing happens. But the same plant-based diet and lifestyle that helps prevent heart disease was also found to help reverse it. Right? Until then, heart disease progression was believed it could be slowed but not stopped or reversed, similar to how Alzheimer's disease is viewed today. So what if we put a group of Alzheimer's patients in the same plant-based program? You don't know until you put it to the test. A randomized, controlled phase 2 clinical trial to see if the progression of Alzheimer's could be slowed, stopped, or even reversed by randomizing about 50 men and women with early-stage Alzheimer's to either make no lifestyle changes for 20 weeks or to eat a whole food plant-based diet, along with moderate exercise, stress management, and group support. So what happened? Those in the control group, most continued to get worse, and none saw any improvement. That's typically what we see in Alzheimer's, where you get worse, then you die. But in the diet and lifestyle group, 40% started to get better within 5 months of eating and living healthier. In the control group, 100% stayed the same or got worse, whereas in the diet and lifestyle group, 70% stayed the same or got better. Which group would you rather have ended up in? Now, why did some people get better and others not? Well, the more they complied with the recommendations, the greater the beneficial impact on their cognition and function. Healthy lifestyles only work if you actually live them. It's all about going back to the basics. From the Anti-Aging Journal Rejuvenation Research, finally, a regimen to extend human life expectancy. Was this some exotic new stem cell treatment or gene therapy? No, it was a reference to this Harvard analysis. More than 100,000 men and women followed for decades, and just a few basic lifestyle behaviors appeared to translate into 12 to 14 years of extra lifespan for the average 50-year-old. Even at age 50, maybe it'll add an extra dozen years to your lifespan. Even at age 70, maybe about 10 extra years on the table. If we clean up our lives before age 50, nearly 18 years may be up for grabs based on these simple, common sense lifestyle behaviors, turning back the clock, not with a drug or a DeLorean, but by simply eating and living healthier. For example, a midlife switch between the ages of 45 and 64 to even the barest of minimums. We're talking 5 daily servings of fruits and vegetables a day, walking even like 20 minutes a day, maintaining a healthy weight and not smoking, may result in a substantial reduction in mortality, even in the immediate future. We're talking about a 40% lower risk of dying in the subsequent 4 years. The researchers conclude that making the necessary changes to adhere to a healthy lifestyle is extremely worthwhile. Middle age is certainly not too late to act. We hold the power. It's never too late to stop smoking, never too late to start moving, never too late to start eating healthier. The good news is that we have tremendous power over our health, destiny, and longevity, and that the vast majority of premature death and disability risk is preventable with a healthy enough diet and lifestyle. Thank you.